Ball movement. Towns fakes a three. Finds Brunson. Extra pass. Shamet off the bounce inside. Layup blocked by Wemby. 2.5 remaining. Brunson finds Hart. Back to Brunson. Fakes the three. Drives inside. Sidestep. Right-handed shot blocked. Castle got a piece of it. Knocked out of bounds. Towns blocked by Fox. Now the dribble. Shot clock winding down. Castle has to put it up. Bang! Stephon Castle from three-point range. And it's a 7-point Spurs lead. Brunson looked like they're going to lob it. Nope. Anunoby, corner three, fires away. Shot's no good. And the Spurs win. What a response from San Antonio. They do it again. And they are right back in the series. The Knicks lead cut 2-1.
There you go, Mike Breen with some of the calls there at the end of the game. The Spurs are on the board. This is a series. Good morning, everybody. How about the Nats late last night? As I was watching all of the post game, which I stayed up and watched right through Scott's show, most of Scott's show, which didn't start until about 12:30. He's coming on the show with us today, Scott Van Pelt, in the 12 o'clock hour on the show with us. He was in the Garden last night for his Sports Center show. I was texting back and forth, and he said it was quite the scene to be a part of. If you were watching last night, it certainly felt that way. The game for the Knicks, though, was not their best. How about the Nats, though? 34-33, 3 runs in the ninth inning to beat the Giants. There you go. Dual heading headlines on the show today. Max is with us. I do want to start with the NBA game last night because I think for me, there were 2 big takeaways from the Spurs bouncing back in Game 3. Number one is this. I'm kind of getting sick of Wemby. I'm just not I don't know what it is, but there's just something about him that's starting to irritate me. It has nothing to do with his outrageous talent and skill at his size and the performance last night for somebody his age. I will say this. He's a dirty player, man. He's dirty. He's not just physical. He's dirty. There is definitely a chippiness in which he plays. I don't mind that typically, but we've seen this throughout the playoffs. He will take cheap shots, and he got away with one last night on Jalen Brunson. Lucky that they missed that because that would have been an easy, very easy flagrant one. He's already been kicked out of one game in the postseason. And there's just something about him that I'm just not vibing with right now. All right. The recognition of the greatness, the potential greatness. There's no doubt about that. But I'm rooting for the Knicks to win this series. Maybe I just discovered he was French last night. Kidding, of course.
That's fair.
That's number one. Number two is this. I've been saying this for 7 or 8 years, watching the NBA playoffs this time of year and doing a lot on the NBA playoffs this time of year because I love it. I know not everybody loves it. I love it. I think it's one of the great, 2-month spectacles on the sports calendar. This is not what you see in the regular season. I'm with most of you. I can't stand the NBA in the regular season. It's a terrible product, actually. But the postseason is the opposite of that. It is compelling as hell. And the intensity of this postseason in particular, and the physical nature of this postseason in particular, has been fun to watch. I like playoff physical basketball. I think it's crossed the line, but I actually enjoy watching it. I still think it's crossed the line, like it did in Game 2 in particular. But my second takeaway is I've been saying for 6 or 7 years that you can't win a title 4 out of 7 4 times if you're an ISO team. And the Knicks this year have gotten to the finals because they got away from being what they were last year, an ISO team. And it's not just ISO, it's 2-man, ISO or 2-man, where one guy's dribbling the life out of the basketball and maybe gets a ball screen to get the matchup that he wants. And they haven't played that way on their way to the finals. And man, was last night a reversion back to Jalen Brunson ISO ball. And you're not going to win 4 out of 7 playing that way. Now, they've played 3 games, and they've only played 1 game that way, and they lost the game. In my opinion, that is a top 3 reason last night why the Knicks lost the basketball game. Jalen Brunson dribbled the life out of the basketball last night. He ended up with as many turnovers as he did assists. 5 turnovers, 5 assists. And I've said this a lot about guys like Harden and Doncic and Brunson in previous years. Sometimes their turnover numbers aren't anywhere near reflective of just how damaging the dribbling the life out of the basketball with nobody else on offense touching it does to an offense. Because he could have had another 3 or 4 turnovers very easily. Very easily. And let me just say this. You can't play iso ball against a defensive team like San Antonio and get away with it. And last night in the second half, the Knicks had 5 total assists in the second half of that game. And the reason is the ball stuck with Brunson. I'm surprised at times with a guy like him because I consider him to be a high IQ and a real crafty player. Harden seems like a dummy to me and will never figure out why he hasn't had the success in the postseason. Doncic just absolutely believes every time he goes out onto a floor that he can, carry the shot volume at 30-plus shots without people touching the ball on offense, without making a defense defend 4 players, and he can beat you that way, 4 out of 7. By the way, he nearly did it a couple of years ago against the Celtics. He got his team to the finals, but then it wasn't good enough against a Celtic team to play that much iso ball. And by the way, what's really ironic about the heavy iso ball players in the league, they tend to be terrible defenders. Harden, Doncic, Brunson. Brunson tries on defense. He's just not a great defender. So you go back to the first round of the playoffs. They were playing iso ball early in the series against Atlanta, and they fell behind 2-1. And then all of a sudden, the Knicks changed. That ball had life. It had energy. Players were touching it. The ball was going through Karl Anthony Towns a lot offensively. And last night was a reversion to last year and to early in the playoffs. If they don't fix that, they're going to lose this series. They won't win 2 of the final 4 games. Cannot play that way again, especially against a team as good as San Antonio is defensively. My God, is Stephon Castle a great defender. Now, I think he's gotten away with murder in the way that they have gone after Brunson in this series. Part of that is just playoff basketball, man. We know it as NBA fans. You get an offensive player that's great, and the other team, if they've got the you-know-whats, they're going to go after him. They're going to beat him up. And last night, they beat up Brunson. But they beat him up because he had the ball so much, and he wouldn't give it up, too. It made it easier to pound him, made it easier to guard him. The easiest team to guard is a team that doesn't move the basketball. When you have 4 guys standing around watching one guy go one-on-one and dribble the shot clock down to a few seconds without anybody touching it, and then, by the way, you double that player and he still isn't able to give it up in the right spots, it's just easy. And then, by the way, when you're defending and it's easier to defend a team, you got more life on offense. You got more air on offense. That, to me, was the most disappointing part of last night. I'm rooting for the Knicks. I want to see New York fans get something that they haven't had since 1973. We've had a title, an NBA title in this town more recently than the Knicks have had an NBA title. Of course, I'm not comparing the 2 franchises. I'm just stating a fact. 2 big takeaways last night. Wemby's a bit dirty, man. He's great. Look, multiple things can be true simultaneously. He's a projected all-time great at this point. I still think there's some awkwardness to his offensive game, and he will polish that out as he grows. Defensively, he's an absolute monster. But he's dirty, man. He's chippy, but beyond that, he's a bit of a dirty player. We've had a lot of dirty, great players in the history of the game. And sometimes I like some of those players. Something about him that's just not right now. I don't want to see them win a title this quickly. Want to see them have to really work for it and earn it at some point. They are working for it, man. They are. I mean, they had a knockdown, drag-out series with Minnesota, obviously winning a 7th game on the road in Oklahoma City, and here they are battling the Knicks. And look, the bottom line with this 3-game NBA Finals so far is it's 2-1 Knicks, but it could be 2-1 Spurs. It could be 3-0 Knicks. It could be 3-0 Spurs. All 3 of these games could have gone either way. I thought last night specifically outside of the Knicks reverting to Brunson iso ball, which was painful at times to watch. I hate it, man. I cannot stand watching that style of basketball. I don't think you can win a championship playing only that style of basketball, and the Knicks haven't played only that style of basketball. They've played much more of the other style of basketball. Multiple players touching it, ball moving, players moving. The ball going through Karl Anthony Towns more than Brunson. I don't know why they insist on having Brunson bring the ball up the court against that kind of pressure. Now, they did screen more for him in the backcourt. He did give it up more than he has in the backcourt, only to get it immediately when it crossed half court. There's nothing that makes sense about letting Jalen Brunson be the guy that brings the ball up the court against Stephon Castle, without significant help. I mean, you need one screener and sometimes 2. You need to create some space for him. Last night, though, a couple of things. Victor Wembanyama was ready from the start. Like, they were ready, San Antonio was. They were in the cauldron, man. That was as intense coming through a television screen as I can remember. They clearly got the message. They got there early. If you were watching any of the pregame, you could tell that the building was electric, an hour before tip. People were there because of the president's expected arrival and everything around the security and all the warnings about you better get here early, et cetera, et cetera. They did. And it was star-studded, man. I don't think anything's matched the star-studdedness of last night's game in Madison Square Garden. I can't remember anything like it even in L.A. I mean, I would love to know where everybody sat, because there were a lot of A-plus, A-listers that were not on the floor. I think Jerry Seinfeld got, basically nixed from a floor seat, and he was willing to pay whatever it took. I don't know what the deal is there. But the Spurs came out and they took it to the Knicks. And Wembanyama was scoring, and he was scoring close to the rim, something that makes so much more sense to me. I mean, I don't know about you, but at 7'5", did you see anybody catch the still of him getting ready to jump it up to start the game against Cat? Karl Anthony Towns is listed at 7 feet. And Victor Wembanyama looks like he's every bit of a half-foot minimum taller than Cat. Wembanyama is actually listed at 7'4.5". There's no way he's 7'4.5". He is every bit of 7'5" or bigger. Look, he may still be growing at 22 years old. He towers over people just like no other player I can ever remember. Maybe Murasan. Or Manute Bol, at 7'6". What was Murasan? 7'7", right? Murasan was 7'7", Manute Bol was 7'6". Establishing Wemby early was big. They have now led by double digits at the end of the first quarter in all 3 games. But last night, it was Wemby, setting the tone early. Castle was a big part of it. Man, if I were watching that game last night without any knowledge of anybody on any team, I may have walked away from last night's game saying that Stefan Castle was the best player on the floor. Both ends of the floor. He was incredible. Man, is he impossible to stop at the rim, and his patience at the rim. And then as a defender, I mean, Castle and Harper, these guards, the way they guard, now they're getting away with murder. Both teams are. Both teams are. I think it's been more San Antonio being the more, physical team on the perimeter, because the Knicks with Brunson in particular, Hart's certainly capable of being physical, but when you've got Castle and you've got Harper both in the backcourt, they are able to stay in front of the basketball. They're able to keep the player and the ball in front of them and the basket behind them. Good defense. And they are able to stay so tight. Referees are letting everybody get away with it. I mean, I've been talking about this since the beginning of the postseason, that this is the most physical or the most allowed contact throughout a playoffs that I can remember. And I love the playoffs because they allow contact, and it's a different game. But this has been incredible. You go back to, say, the Denver-Minnesota series, and then Minnesota-San Antonio, and then San Antonio-Oklahoma City, and now you've seen it for 3 games. I mean, Friday night was unbelievable, the amount of contact that they allowed in the basketball game. They still only called, in total 44 fouls last night. There were still only, 48, 49 free throws in total shot. Knicks coach Mike Brown had a big issue with the free throw disparity in the second half. 24 attempts for the Spurs, just 8 for the Knicks. I would suggest to him, and I haven't gone back and, audited every single possession, but when you have just one player dominating the basketball, even if he is able to get into the paint, you're less likely to get fouls called because the defense isn't scrambling. The defense is set, and they're a good defensive basketball team. Man, San Antonio's so good defensively. Oklahoma City, I thought, was the best defensive team entering the postseason if Minnesota wasn't. San Antonio's played outrageous defense, and it's fun to watch. But they're allowed to get away with a lot of clutching, grabbing, bumping, holding. We've seen that on the perimeter throughout the playoffs. We've seen it in this series. But Castle was incredible. I thought the start for San Antonio last night was huge. But with that said, that hardly determined the game because the Knicks came back with an outrageous second quarter. The crowd, when they were hitting threes, it was insane. Absolutely insane. And they took that big lead at halftime, at a 7-point lead at halftime, 64-57. And I thought they were going to coast, but they didn't. And in the second half and the third quarter was certainly super decisive. And it was Wembanyama and Castle and Fox hitting the big shot. The big shot at the end was definitely Castle's 3 at 108-104. So there you go. 301-230-0980. Follow up on the NBA Finals. Anything you want to talk about? Anybody else getting sick of Wemby? Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the Team980.com. Spurs are up. Spurs are down. Knicks are up 2-1 after the Spurs got on the board last night with a 115-111 win. There was a lot to game 3. Obviously, the crowd, the atmosphere was sensational. The second quarter run that gave the Knicks, the halftime lead, I really thought that they were going to come out and really end the series after that run at the end of the second quarter. They didn't, and they gave up that lead pretty quickly in the third quarter. Wembanyama was great last night. Stephon Castle was outstanding in the game last night. My top 2 takeaways really are, man, Wemby's becoming a little bit irritating for me. I think he's a bit dirty, to be honest with you, as a player. There's a chippiness. There's a badass competitive streak. I love it. There's a lot about him to like for sure. But, man, he got away with another cheap shot last night. He's already been booted from 1 game in the postseason. I think he's up to 3 flagrants for the postseason, but they've missed a couple. Look, he's desperate. They played desperate. You got to love that about a team that's down 2-0. And they went into an absolute snake pit last night. As 20, 21, and 22-year-olds, they're 3 best players. And they won the game. And they are alive and well in this series with game 4 set for tomorrow night. That was takeaway number 1. Takeaway number 2 is that I just don't think the Knicks played well at all, and they reverted to what they were last year, and they reverted to what they were early in this postseason, and that is way too much Jalen Brunson iso ball. I don't think you can win playing that way 4 out of 7 over 4 series in 2 months. I think it's really hard. You're too easy to defend. Yes, he is a spectacular shot maker. You know what he is for this series right now? I mean, he was 11 for 25 last night, which was his best shooting performance of the playoffs at 44% from the field. But on threes right now, he is 7 for 22 for the series, shooting 31.8%. He's shooting 37% for the series from the floor. He's averaging 4.3 turnovers per game and 4.3 assists a game. That's not good. A lot of it is San Antonio's defense. There's no doubt that the Spurs defense gets a lot of credit for it. Castle is a brutal defender. And the way they're officiating the NBA playoffs as a whole in these finals games, it plays into his ability to get up into Brunson, even when he's not guarding Brunson and Harper is or anybody else is. And they tried to get the switch to Champagny when he's in there. That's a better situation. But the iso ball has to stop. They've got to get back to playing more 3, 4, and 5-man basketball where the ball's moving, players are moving. The ball at least touches Karl Anthony Towns a couple of times in a half-court possession. Last night, Karl Anthony Towns for the game had 10 shot attempts. It's not enough. And by the way, of the 10, I would say 4 of them were on offensive rebounds. You know, where he had, let's see how many offensive rebounds. He had 3 offensive rebounds. So 3 offensive rebounds, and then I think it followed with a shot attempt for him. You can't have Karl Anthony Towns, the best player on your team in the first 2 games, have 10 shot attempts. The ball stuck with Brunson, and that's not a good formula for the Knicks. 301-230-0980. Anything on Game 3, the finals in general, Wemby. Anybody else feel the way I sort of am beginning to feel about Wemby? I appreciate the great skill, the incredible ability for somebody that size. There's something about him that's just becoming a little bit irritating to me. And I do think that he's definitely a dirty player. There are a lot of dirty players in sports that end up being great. But he gets and he loses his cool. And you can say, well, they were just going after Brunson. You know, Castle basically was a lead fullback on that one drive and just ran Brunson over. They didn't call it a flagrant because he didn't really wind up and he didn't, extend and finish. But that was flagrant. I mean, clearly. And I don't mind going after Brunson to try to beat him up. That's, they're down 2-0. You try everything you can. But Wemby has One has 3 flagrants, got booted from a game against Minnesota, and last night got away with a flagrant against Brunson in the first half. 301-230-0980. Max, what were your thoughts? I haven't asked you.
I mean, it's been a great final so far, but that one Wemby play where he grabs Brunson and I'm not going to victim blame on Jalen Brunson, but he did have a fistful of his jersey. But if you're Wemby, you can't react like that. And it's happened a couple times throughout this postseason. You saw him whispering to Plumlee, I think it was after game 1, just hard fouls. So I definitely think he's starting to build that moniker up. I think by the end of this series, he's going to be a big time villain in New York. He also was asked about that, and he said, I don't know. I'm nowhere close to Trae Young levels, though, but I think he's going to get there.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
But yeah, overall basketball wise, the Spurs came back really hard in this game. You could tell right from the jump that they were ready to roll and that they were determined to get this win. So yeah, I definitely think we're gonna see. I think this is going 7. Don't you think?
I don't know. I think every one of these games is kind of like they can go either way.
It's been a war.
The Knicks could win the next 2. The Spurs could win the next 3. I don't know what I hope it goes 7. I hope we have 4 more of these because the actual competition is compelling as hell. It has been throughout, but these 3 games, even though they haven't been the prettiest at times, they've been absolute thrills to watch because you just, the intensity, and I think some people get surprised at this, but man, it doesn't matter how much money you make. These guys want to win, and it's so obvious in the NBA playoffs how badly these teams want to win and be on this stage. This is the sport more than any other that gets judged on championships. It's the fewest number of players, that you have on the floor or on the field at the same time. And so players' legacies are so much more tied to titles than they are in football, baseball, or in hockey in terms of the 4 major professional sports. And you can see how badly these teams want it. I think you see it every year in the NBA postseason. You're definitely seeing it right now. A coach texted me during it. He said the worst part of the ISO ball is when he gets double teamed and he tries to dribble out of the double team. 100%. Man, the Knicks have to have an easier answer. The ball should immediately off the double teams. Ball should immediately go to the middle of the floor. The guy who goes to double team, if that's your man, you get to the middle of the floor. You're the relief. You throw the ball to the middle of the floor, then you attack, and you're 4-on-3. And it should be easy. And he does try to dribble through and out of double teams, which just eats up the shot clock more. They can bitch all they want about how physical San Antonio is being with him. But the Knicks didn't earn the right to be at the free throw line last night with the way they played offensive basketball. It was painful to watch at times. And as great as he is, and he's such a great shot maker, he's such a great ball handler, he's patient. There's so many things about his game. And without him, they've got no shot. Understand that all these things can be true at the same time. But God, wouldn't it be? How many times does Brunson catch a ball after it's reversed from one side to another and he's got an open look? Every shot he takes and makes is contested. Mo in Gaithersburg, go ahead.
Hey, what's going on? Thank you for having me.
Sure.
I think the key plays of the whole game were NBA was not going to have the Knicks winning that game. There's way too much money involved, and they want this to come back to New York for one more game. If you watch the game, the key
it couldn't end last night. They were going to play on Wednesday night anyway. Last night was just game 3.
What I was stating is there was no way that they were going to have them get swept, because if you think about it, you watch the game, when Bridges got 2 fouls in the first half, in the first quarter, that's where the game turned a little bit. And then when the Spurs got the lead, then we go back to the whole foul game. Like, how was that flagrant foul, by the way, on Brunson? Brunson's not even looking at him, and if you watch him, the shooter actually jumped into him. That was more like a Reggie Miller play than anything else. But
yeah, I want to just go back to what you
they,
said about the Bridges thing, because I do think that San Antonio started off well. They went to Wemby early. They got him going early. They took another double-digit first-quarter lead. To your point, and it's a good one, Bridges gets 2 fouls, and he never recovered from that last night. He was a non-factor the entire night. But let's not forget, the Knicks absolutely went nuclear in the second quarter. And they scored 42 points, and they had a 7-point lead at halftime. And I don't know about you, but at halftime, when they took that lead with that crowd, I'm like, it's going to be 3-0. I understand what you're saying. Of course, the NBA would prefer a long series. They would prefer to see this thing go 7. And I thought in game 2, the Spurs got the benefit of a very kind whistle all night long. I didn't feel that way last night. Part of it, though, is, Mo, I don't think the Knicks earned a better whistle last night with the way they played offensive basketball. The numbers won't say it was one-sided officiating-wise. It was 32-22. That's a pretty big disparity, 23-21 in fouls. It was the 24 free throws to 8 in the second half that Mike Brown was complaining about. Well, then, Mike, make the defense move a little bit. Take it to Wemby. And instead, there was just too much of the ball getting stuck with Brunson. And yeah, he's a magical shot maker, but I don't think you earn the free throw line playing that way. I don't think you do.
The second part that the game turned around was also Brunson getting into foul trouble in the third quarter when they took him out. If you watch the game, the Spurs and the Knicks, they couldn't score for about 2 minutes.
Yeah, there was that stretch.
Back and forth, and there was a bad stretch for the Knicks. And if you also, everybody's on the Spurs now, Spurs this, Spurs that. But if you think about it, everything went well for the Spurs in this game. And the Knicks were still in it. If Castle does not hit that 3, the Knicks probably going to win that game.
Look, you're right. They would have had a chance down 108-104 with still a minute, plus left, a minute 40 or whatever it was left in the game to come back down. And if he misses, and that was a bad possession for San Antonio and a good defensive possession for the Knicks. I'll tell you this about when Brunson's out. I think Alvarado's had a very good series. I think the ball with Alvarado has energy and life, and it moves. I'm not suggesting that they could win with Alvarado instead of Brunson. Of course not. But it's a different style of basketball when he's in there. Now, that was last night because the Knicks have played better team basketball. The ball's moved. If you really go back to that Game 3 loss to Atlanta when they were playing ISO once again to start the playoffs, and they were down 2-1, it changed, and Karl Anthony Towns became a big part of what they were doing. Last night, sorry, but Cat needs to be more significant offensively, and he wasn't. Jalen Brunson can't have as many turnovers in a game as he does assists, especially when he's getting doubled. Now, off the double team, it may not result in the assist. It may be the hockey assist, but you got to get rid of the basketball on the double team. Ball's got to go to the middle of the floor. You got to play 4-on-3 the rest of the way, and maybe somebody else ends up with the actual assist, but that's good basketball. Jalen Brunson did not play high IQ basketball, and Mike Brown, they've done this. They did it all last year. It's not going to cut it against a great defensive team like San Antonio. It just isn't. Mo, thanks for the call. I want to get to some of these other calls. 3-230-0980. Anything about Game 3 last night? Anybody with me on Wemby? Look, there's greatness, and there's projected greatness. He's a bit irritating to watch. He's kind of dirty. He is. Rod and Landover, go ahead.
Yeah, man, look, for me, first of all, the Knicks got to match that intensity, man. They can't let these young guys from San Antonio come in New York City and rough them off like that. You know what I'm saying? They will have to stand up to that. I mean, look, if they throwing elbows, the Knicks got to throw them back. It's just the bottom line. They The Knicks is the veteran team. They can't let these young guys come in there and steal their thunder.
These young guys are absolute defensive.
Oh, yeah, they don't.
And I mean, they err on the side of being crazy aggressive, which you have to love for a 20 and 21-year-old in Harper and Castle in particular. Those two have been major revelations in this postseason. I know a lot of, Big Tony and a lot of Spurs fans were telling me about Castle and Harper all year, but you don't know for sure until the postseason. Wow.
And that leads me to my next point. My next point is this. They are must-watch TV. When they had Parker and what's my man, Duncan, they was kind of boring. I didn't really like watching them. They were a little boring. They kind of reminded me. They was winning championships, but they was boring. This Spurs team right here, with Wemby shooting threes like Steph Curry, dunking on people backwards, Castle dunking on people, them shooting threes. Man, this team is a must-watch team, man. They fun to watch. They D you up. They dunk on you. They in your face. Man, these guys are fun to watch, man. Listen.
I agree with you on that. If you like basketball turning into football and rugby, and watching somebody literally try to intimidate physically the opponent, boy, the Spurs are good at doing that. Look, the Knicks are a tough team too. Knicks are very tough. Josh Hart is tough. By the way, I thought Anunoby last night was phenomenal, and he has turned into one of the best two-way players in the game. But you're not wrong, man. Castle and Harper, I actually enjoy watching them play as much as I enjoy watching Wembanyama play. I'll tell you what they need. They need another big. They need a 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", 6'11" big to put out there so they can go big. They don't have a big lineup at all. Now, Castle plays big in terms of, his personality. Same with Harper. I think in the offseason, the Spurs are going to go get themselves another big guy so they can occasionally play big, because they don't have the ability to do that. They don't have another big dude.
Somebody come off the bench would be perfect. And last thing, Cam, I would say this. Man, I love the city of New York, but I'm going to tell you right now, I love when their sports teams lose. Man, they be so – when they lose, it is so funny looking at Spike Lee and all them jokers, Fat Joe, all them jokers. Man, it be so funny when they lose, Kevin. Look, the Giants, the Yankees, the Knicks. Man, listen, I love the city, but I be loving to see their sports teams lose. Man, thanks for taking my call, Kevin.
All right. As always, Rod. Yeah, look, there is something to be said for that. They came for a celebration the next two games, and they're not going to get that celebration sweep. Look, I still think the Knicks have a good chance to win this series. I think at times they've been the better team. Wembanyama was outplayed by Karl Anthony Towns in the first two games. I don't think Mike Brown and the Knicks coaching staff and or Jalen Brunson gave Karl Anthony Towns an opportunity last night to outplay Wembanyama again. I think they've got to get back to that. Again, I'll beat this dead horse until it's dead multiple times, but you cannot have Jalen Brunson, barely get the ball over the timeline. Now there are 16 seconds left in the shot clock. He's dribbling the life out of it. Then they come with the double, and he's trying to dribble through the double. And you can't have, 8-9 possessions in a game where he's the only one that touches the basketball. Even if he works himself into a good shot and makes it, you're not making the defense work enough. You're not including your teammates, which, eventually you're going to have to. They've got to be ready to respond as well. That's not winning basketball, even at the NBA level. And we see it so often at every level now. ISO ball, two-man ball. It's not what they did in the first two games. It's not what they did against the Cavs. It's not what they did against the 76ers. It's not what they did for the last half of the series against the Hawks. Last night, they reverted to Jalen Brunson / James Harden-esque dribbling the life out of the basketball getting stuck, and you're not at an advantage playing that way. And they paid the price for that. Look, the Spurs defense, too. If you're going to do that against a great defensive team, good luck. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Alan, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for taking my call, man.
Sure.
I listen. I've been listening to you for a long time. I've never called before, but I just wanted to let
Thanks
you
for
know
calling,
that
man.
I agree with you. I agree with you that Mr. Wemby is turned into a villain right in front of our eyes. You know, he is a dirty player. I've seen him throw them elbows he threw, that putting that shoulder down and running over players like he's that kind of stuff. And that's some dirty stuff. But what I don't understand is that why don't the Knicks? They need to bring. Where's Charles Oakley and Mr. Mason? They need an enforcer to put him on his butt.
You're going to get teams that are going to put that guy on their roster to go after this guy in the future.
Yes. If you living in a glass house, you can't throw stones, man. This guy has got to start hitting the floor, but he's going to be protected by the league. He's the league's golden calf. They're not going to let this guy get roughed up with so much because of his potential of who he is to the league. There's nowhere in the world, I'm going to let you go, Kevin, there's nowhere in the world that you can't tell me that in 3 years in a row you drafting Wemby, next year you getting Castle, and then you turn around and getting, what's his name?
Harper.
Harper. 3 years in a row. You can't tell me that the league is not setting up the Spurs for success. And it's obvious. And they're going to win this series.
And Oakley or a Mason or somebody like that is exactly what the Knicks could use right now. Like, they need somebody to go after Wembanyama in a way that gets him into trouble. You can't. Brunson got up and held his cool, last night, because you're going to catch the second guy, and he didn't want to, take a flagrant or potentially get tossed for the game. If he had gone after Wemby, I don't know if he could have reached him. But you're going to see teams in trying to combat San Antonio here moving forward put an enforcer on their roster for that sole purpose, because by the way, it's easy to sort of justify because Wemby's dirty. He's a dirty player. There's really no debate on that. And part of it's chippy, part of it is hyper competitive, and I love that part of him. But we've now seen throughout a postseason him get tossed from a game, 3 flagrants in the playoffs, and probably 2 or 3 flagrants that weren't called. So we're gonna find teams trying to combat that with enforcer. It's a good point, Alan. Thanks for calling. Appreciate it. 301-230-0980. Let's keep the calls going on the NBA playoffs. The Spurs are on the board last night with a 115-111 win in that unbelievable environment at Madison Square Garden. Do you agree with me that Wemby's becoming a bit irritating? Alan does. And then secondly, who's got the advantage right now in this series? It's hard for me to come up with, all 3 of these games could have gone either way. Like, literally, San Antonio had a double-digit lead in game 1, blew it. The Knicks had a double-digit lead in game 2, blew it, but then got a turnover by Wemby late, and a missed shot by Wemby late that could have cost them. And then last night, the Knicks are up 7, coasting. They had a shot if Castle misses that 3. 301-230-0980. We've got a line open if you want to jump on. 301-230-0980. NBA Finals thoughts next. Stephon Marbury last night had a message for the Knicks as it relates to dirty Victor Wembanyama. He said, Wemby is an international player. They played dirty overseas, just so you know. Remember, Marbury played most of his professional career overseas in China, in fact. We're not used to playing dirty in America the way Wemby just threw Jalen Brunson. If I'm watching film and I see Wemby throw somebody on my team, the next game I'm going to pop him in his rib cage so hard with my elbow that he's going to fall and drop to the ground, and he's going to wish he never put his hands on me. So next game, I guarantee you, after they watch the film, what he did to Jalen Brunson, you better make sure you put that knife in his neck. That's where this thing is at. Now, Marbury, obviously, a Knick and a New York guy and the whole thing. But yeah, my question would be, in most situations, you would see retaliation in the next game. Who for the Knicks is going to retaliate? Who's on their roster that they're going to send after Wembanyama early in game 4? I don't know. You don't want Karl Anthony Towns, or you don't want any of your good players doing it. Again. What'd you say?
Mitchell Robinson's going to break his hand again, punching Wemby in the face.
Mitchell Robinson, though, is a critical player in this series.
I don't know who you send out there.
Yeah. Lou sent me a note and just said, you do realize that San Antonio was in the penalty with 9 minutes and 18 seconds left in the game. I did know that. You're right. I should have mentioned that. And I guess my position is, I can't, if I'm the Knicks, I can't blame officiating for last night. I got to look at what I did offensively, which is the ball stuck way too much with Brunson. And if it's going to do that, you're not going to create the opportunities to get to the free throw line if you're not making 5 players defend. G from the shop wants to weigh in. I'm very interested to hear what G says. Go ahead, G.
What's up, Sheehan? Hey, Sheehan, you criticized Wemby for too much celebration after the West Coast Conference final.
Not too much.
Right?
You're right. I think I was just stunned at how emotional he was when it wasn't a title. It was an observation. It wasn't criticism, observation.
But just stop criticizing my words and let me finish what I'm talking about.
I'm not criticizing your words.
You did all that.
Don't get sensitive on me.
Never sensitive, never catching feelings. I can talk crap with the best of them, man. But
we'll
I'm just telling you, do you remember how your favorite player celebrated his first regular season game as a rookie? A regular season game, and Magic Johnson jumping up and down for joy, and Kareem had to tell him, calm down. We got 81 more, Slim.
You're right, but he wasn't crying he wasn't crying uncontrollably, weeping.
Again, that was very emotional. You can't tell somebody how to act, and he just beat the reigning champs on their home. He put up a 40-20 game 1 against them champs. He's 22 years old, man. That's an emotional time, man. Man, I'm not mad at him for that, especially because I turned on the 30 for 30 Celtics-Lakers the other night just to fall asleep, Sheehan, and I watched the vaunted Celtics and Larry Bird and them jump around when they put Moses Malone out and they used the conference final. So you spent all last week talking about Wemby. You've never seen a player hit the floor as much as Wemby. And then you call him dirty for combating the physicality that he's been facing the whole playoffs. I loved it.
Do you think he's a dirty player?
No, I think that's part of basketball. And you gotta combat it some type of way when you're getting held by Hartenstein all the time. When you down 0-2, trying to get a win in the Mecca. Oh yeah, I'm gonna throw their best player in and tell them, man, I'm not interested in any jersey swaps after the game. You know what I'm saying? I love the old school mentality that Wemby's playing with.
There's part of it I like too, and I've said that.
Yeah.
There's part of it. Doesn't mean that he can't be a dirty player at the same time. I think he's dirty.
No, but when you think of dirty players, who you think of? John Stockton, Chris Paul, people like that. They got to do stuff like that to get some type of advantage because of a disadvantage. And Wemby's body type, Paul, is an advantage, but sometimes it's a disadvantage because he's so light in the ass. And that's why they be trying to manhandle him, because when you that type of player, that's the only way to defend him. So I'm not getting sick of Wemby. I'm loving this old school mentality coming back. Too much banana boat vacationing together, and I'm hoping he tied up.
You're hoping what? That they tie it up?
I'm hoping they tie it up.
Yeah.
Both teams
So a couple of things. Number one is all of the things that you like about him, I like about him too. All right. You know me, and we've had many conversations. You know that this is the kind of ball that I like and the kind of competitiveness that I like. It doesn't mean that he isn't dirty as well. He's dirty. Okay, he's been thrown out of a game in this postseason already. He's got 3 flagrants, and last night that was a flagrant that he got away with. Easily a flagrant. I'm not suggesting to you that he's not taking a pounding and that he can't respond physically, but that was a dirty shot. All right, that was not your typical, responding with physicality. I thought Castle's drive on Brunson was less dirty than what Wembanyama did because Castle's got a defender in front of him. He had zero interest in anything other than running Brunson over and trying to inflict the most physical damage he could. And I agreed that should not have been a flagrant. But Wembanyama should have been called for what would have been his 4th flagrant of the postseason. And I think in watching him throughout this postseason, he loses his cool and he commits dirty fouls. He throws elbows like he did in the Minnesota series that got him tossed. I think he's a dirty player. I also think he's a great player. I also think he's super competitive as a player. I also think, observationally, it was a weird reaction after the Oklahoma City game. But that's his reaction. Different than Magic after the opener as a rookie. But we can agree to disagree. There's a lot that I like about him. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot, though, that has become irritating about him. For me.
No, but you know what else, though? Because this how I know he was coached up right. Because if he wasn't playing like that and he wasn't a little chippy and like you calling him dirty, he wouldn't be combating it, and we will be sitting here calling him soft. And he's on the floor again.
No, you can combat with physicality with a real competitive response without being dirty. Last night was a dirty shot against Brunson, who wasn't expecting it. The elbow that he threw against, who was it now? I'm forgetting it, in the Minnesota game, was dirty. He's thrown a lot of elbows looking to connect that he hasn't connected on. Look, part of it, I like the drama of it. Don't get me wrong. I love this style of basketball. I love the competitiveness of it. He's a dirty player, though, in my opinion. We'll just agree to disagree on that.
No, but he was taught because he's been skinny, super skinny his whole life. In basketball, you won't get tossed around.
Yeah, you got to respond. You got to respond.
And he has been taught on how to do it.
Yeah, well, part of then if he's being taught to throw dirty elbows and to take his hand to an unsuspecting defender and toss him to the ground. That was a flagrant last night.
Sometimes it's gritty, sometimes it's dirty. Them blurred lines is real blurry, but at the same time, we're competing. And he's a hell of a competitor.
Sometimes I think you're blurry when you call. But I agree with you. There is a fine line sometimes. I'm on the side of a lot of what he does is super competitive, but also dirty. You're on the side of super badass competitive, nothing dirty. So we'll just agree to disagree on that.
No. Sometimes it do get dirty, but that's in the heat of the battle. And you're not going out there trying to hurt everybody on every play. But we playing with some type of competitive chip on our shoulder. Like last night. Hey, Sheehan, shout out to you, Sheehan, because coolest basketball, we beat Whitman last night by 1 in the nail biter.
You did?
A couple white boys shooting the cover off of that joint.
They can shoot it. Yeah, they've always got shooters. All right, I'll holler at you later. I got to go. You took me way past the break. Brian, Reggie, Bones, Wendell, if you're on hold, stay there. We'll do calls for a little while longer. Reaction to Game 3 last night in the NBA Finals. Wemby's starting to irritate me a little bit, but I also love watching him. Those two things can be true, and they are with me. But he's dirty. Your reaction to me saying that and more next. From Kevin, do you think he's as dirty as Draymond Green or Bill Laimbeer or John Stockton or Ron Artest? Not as dirty as Draymond Green and not as emotional as Draymond Green, but there is an emotional part of him that he can lose it on occasion. And maybe that'll change as he becomes an older player. Again, I want to be clear. I love the fact that he responds. It would suck if somebody had that much talent and those many gifts and wasn't a guy that could respond to the physicality. I just think he crosses the line and he's dirty on occasional, and I think last night was a dirty shot against Brunson. And that if it had been seen, it would have absolutely been called a flagrant one. And it would have been his fourth of the playoffs, and he's already been booted from one game. Brian in Tacoma Park. Brian, thanks for holding. Go ahead.
You're not wrong, but G in the shop is 1,000% right because he's giving you context to the dirty. What I'm seeing is he's compensating for not being strong enough right now. When Karl Anthony Towns puts his head down and drives to the basket, there's nothing anybody can do about it, including Wemby, because he's a freight train. When Wemby tries to put his head down and drive to the basket, he's still getting bounced around like a pinball. He'll get stronger. But you're old enough to remember to where Ralph Sampson had enough and wasn't going to take it anymore.
And swung at Sheehan.
Kareem turned around. Yeah. Kareem turned around and uppercut somebody, for God's sake, when he had enough.
Kent Benson.
That's going to change. I thought that you were going to go in a different direction as far as the enforcer is concerned, because the Spurs are the ones that need the enforcer. Oakley and Mason protected Ewing. Another team going after Wemby, that's not an enforcer, really. That's a goon play, which by definition is dirty. Hey, go hurt that guy. Go rough that guy up. So Wemby is not going to – I think it's hilarious, by the way, that he's spending time meditating with these Buddhist monks, and then he's coming back here and old Grasshopper is knocking fools out.
Yeah.
I love the irony in that.
Yeah.
But this is how playoff basketball can be complicated. He's not going out there looking to hurt somebody. It's retaliatory. I think it's going to change as he gets stronger. And it might even change with just a sit down one day at the league office, and they may say, we can't have this. But we've seen this before. We're watching, I mean, you got to watch this as, ball player Sheehan, not Coach Sheehan, in terms of what you're seeing and why he's reacting that way. He's not replacing a lack of a skill set, and they're doing stuff to him too.
No doubt,
So,
doubt about that.
It's dirty, but
look,
dirty with context. He cannot have a career where, like G said, he's being looked at as a soft French player. I think he's made up his mind that
he's definitely not that. He's definitely not that. Look, I think that you and G are right from that standpoint. I think the way you put it, especially the body that he's in currently, and sort of the limitations of that and him overcompensating for that, there is an element to that. I think anytime, you've been around basketball and you've seen even younger players be super tall and gangly and awkward and different than everybody else, there is, there's a level of confidence that you'd like to see those players have, especially at a young age. In fact, I would just say observationally, super tall young players tend to be the least confident on the court. He's not that. He's not lacking in that, which is phenomenal, and it's great to watch, and not to mention the skills that he has. But there's probably some overcompensating for a body that just can't stand up necessarily to a grown man body at this point. So I appreciate that, and I know what you're saying. I think, though, the reactions are sometimes just overly emotional and dirty. And it sounds like you agree with that as well. You're just putting context and you're giving a reason for it. That's fair. So, yeah, we'll see how he continues to grow, as he becomes physically more mature. As far as the goon part or the enforcer part, yeah, there is an element, and I think San Antonio will go find themselves another big. Look, they play small. I mean, it's ironic to say because he's 7'5", but they basically play with 4 guards around him. 4 perimeter players around him. Luke Cornett's the only other front court player that comes into a game, but he comes in when Wemby goes out. So it'll be interesting to see what that team looks like when they can go bigger with Wembanyama, and they'll have to add to that roster.
Cornette's dirty.
I'm sorry?
Some people think Cornette's dirty.
I didn't think that was a dirty shot last night. I thought that was inadvertent.
It wasn't a dirty shot, but he's got that sort of Kelly Olynyk sense, of kind of that pro wrestler, like he awkwardly will hit somebody in the hole. What's going on? What's happening?
Yeah.
What happened? What happened?
Right.
So he could play that enforcer role. He's big enough, certainly.
Yeah, the problem is he's not a true, 4. He's a center. But yes, I also think that I want to make one thing clear, because I love the physical nature of the NBA playoffs. I loved when the Celtics and Lakers would get into it and a fight would break out with, Seasting and Rambis. I loved when the Pistons became a force. And even though Lambeer was definitely a dirty player, and Rick Mahorn was a dirty player to begin with, and the two of them, I enjoyed watching it, and I am enjoying watching this at times turn into rugby and or football. I just think that Wemby, and he's the golden child right now, if that had been Draymond Green last night, as an example, he'd be booted from the next game. There'd be a chance he'd be suspended for a game. Do you agree with me or not?
I agree with you. I need to add something else, by the way, but I agree with you. But Draymond's history, which was much longer, and it was
okay.
Also
but he's developing a bit of a history now too.
Yeah, he's developing a history, but it is clear too when you watch them play that Draymond is making up for a lack of skill set.
Fair. I'm just saying that other players last night, for what they did, could have potentially suffered. Maybe not in the NBA Finals. Maybe it would have just been a fine, and maybe he will get fined. I don't know. But I would imagine that will be, and it's not a 2-minute report thing, but that should have been called a flagrant. He's gotten away with several of them in the playoffs. I've watched every single one of these games with them, and he's gotten away with a bunch of them. I mean, he's missed on connecting on elbows a few times. Anyway, good call, Brian. I appreciate it. 301-230-0980. Let's go to our guy Bones in Southeast. Bones, go ahead. Bones, you got to turn down the radio, man.
Hey, what's up, Kevin?
What's up, Bones? Go ahead, man. You're on.
Man, look, hey, check it out, man. Taking my call. Shout out to Max, right? But look, Kevin, man, look. I can relate to what Wemby going through. They don't call me Bones for nothing, man. They call me Bones because I'm a straight up skinny man. And I used to be on the basketball court. I'm talking about black top basketball. And there used to be some big dudes out there, man. And you had to come out there, man, bring your A game. You had to represent, man, especially being a skinny guy. So what Wemby did, he gonna have to develop an aggressive game, man, because, they're gonna take advantage of it. I mean, and sometimes he done put through some dirty shots, you understand, like the one yesterday in the elbow. I'm not, promoting that. But, I mean, he got to protect himself, man. He got to let them know, man, that, he's in the paint and get out of his way. That's like Moses Malone. You know how Moses played, man. Moses was aggressive, man. Moses didn't play. But I like that defensive tenacity that the Spurs got, man. And I'm telling you, man, I just need Castle to keep his head in the game. You know what I'm saying? So, because Castle, man, is the defensive threat. Jalen Brunson, he's doing too much ISO. As long as he keeps doing ISO, I'm happy for him because you know why? The Spurs going to get him. The Spurs.
Thanks, Bones.
He's stagnating
he stagnated they game, man.
Yeah, he did. There's no doubt it was way too much ball sticking with Brunson, too much ISO ball. Mark and Largo. Mark, go ahead.
I think Wemby is a bully. And I think everyone acts like Wemby's the tallest player to ever play in this league, which he's not. And he's very athletic.
He's the most skilled tall player to ever play in the game.
Okay, fine. But here's the problem, Kevin. I think Alex Zar is a better center and more polished than Wemby is. He's got more set moves than Wemby has.
Hold on, write that one down. Make sure, put a timestamp on that one, Max, please.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. And here's the thing. Kevin, you and I both know, if this was 30 years ago, man, Anthony Mason and Charles Oakley would have put him in the second row. And I think tomorrow night's game is going. First of all, I think it's going to be the best game of the season for the Knicks because I think they're going to win, and then they're going to close this out on Saturday. I think they just pissed off the Knicks because really, as great as San Antonio played, they barely won. That would concern me if I was the Spurs. As bad as the Knicks have been playing these three games, time for the Knicks to play their best game. And without Trump being there, everything's going to be fueled up tomorrow night. I'm pulling for the Knicks mainly because Wemby's starting to look like a bully. And personally, I think Alex Zar is a better player than he is. I'll talk to you later.
Oh, you never disappoint. You just never disappoint. Alex Zar is better than Victor Wembanyama. Mark and Largo. June 9th, 2026 at 11:19 a.m. Make sure we've got that one
we will
down.
remember this 1 year from now when it's Wizards Spurs in the NBA Finals.
Put that down on Mark's list. Mark, we have a separate file.
We have a running
you.
document.
You've got your own file. That was a good one. A bully is not the way I would describe him. I don't think he's bullying people around with that frame right now. He's getting bullied more than he's bullying. I think he's responding to the bullying and, what Brian and G said, I think there's some definite truth to in that body right now. He kind of feels like, and I'm glad he feels this way versus the opposite, which is cowering and being soft. He's not soft. There's no doubt about it. But he gets and allows his emotions to manifest themselves in dirty plays. That's why he's got multiple flagrants in the postseason. That's why he got tossed from a game and was, they were contemplating suspending him for the next game in that Minnesota series. And I think that there is a dirty part of Victor Wembanyama right now. Let's go to Wendell. Wendell in Brandywine, Maryland. Wendell, thanks for holding. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. So listen, every time down the floor when Wemby gets anywhere close, Karl Anthony Towns is wrapping him up like it's a WWE match.
They're wrapping each other up. I mean, watch what Castle's doing to Brunson. They're allowing it. I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. And Wemby's targeted just like Brunson is right now, no doubt.
Exactly. And just like the other caller said, his strength has got to get better in the years to come. Just like Jordan had to get in the weight room for the Jordan rules, what we're seeing now is the next version of that with Wemby. But I mean, Karl Anthony Towns is just tackling him, and there's no freedom of movement for Wemby. So he's got to, stand up for himself.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm not. No one's suggesting that Wemby's not being roughed up by the Knicks. By the way, I think it's much more egregious in this particular series on the perimeter with what's being done to Brunson by Castle in particular. I'm not saying that let me just tell you, Castle's emerged in this postseason as the biggest reveal for me, and I should have listened to Big Tony during the regular season, but I love Castle. Absolutely love everything about Stefan Castle. And I love the way he defends, and he's going to defend the way he's defending as long as it's going to be allowed. But literally, he bear hugs at times, Brunson, especially off the ball. They all do it to him. He's been there. Everything I've said about Wemby, him becoming a bit irritating for me. I'm just being honest. Stefan Castle's become incredibly endearing. I love watching that dude play. I love watching Wemby play too. Don't get me wrong. What else did you have, Wendell?
I love how Wemby cares about the game.
I agree.
His passion.
Agreed.
It might be, misconstrued for something else, but he actually cares about winning.
Yeah,
and
no
cares
doubt.
about playing hard.
Everybody
and
in these
we don't
finals
have
seem to
enough of
care
that.
about
we
winning.
don't have enough of that.
Yeah.
We don't have enough of that, though. We don't have enough of that. So, yeah, go Wemby.
Yeah. I think also, let me just make one other quick observation. Big Tony's on hold, and I want to talk to him. I'm sure he'll be very upset with my Wemby takes. But San Antonio did the same thing to SGA. They roughed him up on the perimeter. They didn't let them get into what they run. OKC, though, typically moves the ball a lot more than the Knicks did last night, even if it ends up coming back to SGA. I also thought they handled double teams better. I also thought that, SGA didn't have anywhere near the help that the Knicks have. The Knicks are a better shooting team right now than Oklahoma City is, even though they're not shooting it well. Brunson in particular isn't shooting it well. All right, we do have to take a break. Big Tony, stay. I want to talk to you. Lap, everybody else on hold. We got a line open at 301-230-0980. NBA Game 2, NBA Finals, recap, thoughts. Van Pelt's going to join us next hour. He was there last night. We've got some football to talk about. Window Nation's offering buy 4, get 4 free right now. It's a great sale if you've been thinking about new windows, because you're basically paying half price for the windows. On top of that, you don't have to pay anything for 2 years if you choose to finance the purchase. No money down, no monthly payments, and no interest charged for 2 full years. They have a 96% satisfaction rating, and Forbes ranked them number 1 among all window installation companies in the country. If you've been thinking about new windows, I ask one thing. Give Window Nation a chance to come out and give you an absolute free in-home estimate when convenient for you. Schedule it today at 866-90-NATION or head to windownation.com. All right, Big Tony's on hold. By the way, in our little phone rundown where Brian tells me everybody who's on hold and on what line, he put Big Tony in big, bold letters at an 18 or 20 font size, just so that I wouldn't miss it. Because the last time Big Tony was on hold, I missed it, and he wasn't happy with me. All right, your Spurs are on the board. What do you say? Go ahead. Have at it.
All right, what's going on, man? Hey, look here.
What's
First of all, I'm going to surprise you. I don't like Wemby. I call him Wimpy, first of all. Listen to me, Kevin. I lost all justice for him when, I forget, maybe it was OKC, when they lost that game and he did not go to the podium. You cannot win a game and be ready to talk, but when you lose, oh, now you can't talk to the media? Nah, Slim. The day he did that, ask Doc. I called Doc show. I lost all justice for him right then and there. If you win and you talk, you lose, you talk. That was it for me. And the other thing is, Kevin, get in the paint, Slim. I don't care what you get in the paint. Yeah, they're gonna bust you up. But Kevin, if you actually watch sometimes, he will come up the court and he will hang by the 3-point line. He won't even make an effort. He won't even make an effort. It ain't like a cat is pushing him out. He won't even go down. And the other thing, all this woulda, coulda, shoulda. The Spurs could have won the first game. They could have won the second game. The Knicks could have won the first, the second, and third. Okay, all this woulda, coulda, shoulda. Hey, Kevin, everybody's crying about the fouls. Did the refs call it? If they ain't call it, it ain't happened. All right? That's what I say. I mean, it goes both ways.
I want everybody to understand something about my longtime good friend, Big Tony. Big Tony is a massive San Antonio Spurs fan. And you just called in and you said you don't like Wemby. The guy that's going to lead your team to championships, plural, more likely than not.
Kevin, you know damn well my dogs is Harper and Castle. I done told you that from the beginning. Watch these two monsters. Castle's a straight menace to society. You remember that movie? That was made after him.
Yeah.
And look, you look at Castle. They asked Harper last night on the interview, what makes Castle smile? He said, I ain't never seen his brother smile. Nothing.
Yeah.
He got the same expression. It don't matter what happened. The world could blow up. He got the same expression. Slim, let me tell you something. Everybody's talking about Brunson. He's missing his shot. Dude, it's not that he's doing it. Kevin, I told you they got 5 dudes that they're going to throw at. Remember I said they got 5 dudes they're going to throw at SGA? They got 5 dudes that they're going to throw at Lord Dreadlock. And look here, they got Kelvin Johnson coming off the bench. He's 6'8", and then they got the little light-skinned brother from Arizona, little number 14 pick. He's like 6'9", 6'10".
Yeah.
So they got, and and for the rest of the world listening, besides OKC having 37 first-round draft picks coming up, for all you other people out there listening, Wemby's 22, Castle's 21, Harper's 20. You have a good one, Kevin.
Hold on for one second.
I'm still here.
Do you got to get out of the truck and make a delivery or what?
No, I'm good. No, I'm right here.
So a couple things. Number one, Castle was great as an interview last night on the post game with This Is the NBA with Barkley. Yeah, he is. I've watched him now. He is everything about Castle I love because he's an absolute menace on the court. Like you said, off the court, he is thoughtful. He's bright. Everything about him, I love Castle. And I can't remember a guy that young that is that confident, that patient, and that physical at the rim. I know he's 6'6", but man, he plays like a 6'8", 6'9" dude at the rim. And then they're letting him get away with murder defensively. It doesn't mean that he's not a great defensive player because he absolutely is. But them allowing him to get away with murder has made it even easier or even made it much more difficult for Brunson. And then when it comes to Dylan Harper, I'm going to tell you right now, I watched a lot of Rutgers. I watched a lot of Bailey and Harper because there was so much pub around them before their year. It was not a good team. I don't even think they went 500. And that's a good coach at Rutgers too. They were just too young. I didn't think Bailey, I worried about Bailey. I liked Harper, but I didn't see this coming. The move that he made in the first half where he went up and dunked at the rim after shaking somebody and then he bullies his way to the rim as a 20-year-old.
They do.
I love those two players in the future. My question to you is, don't you think Wembanyama needs another big next to him? Is that what they're going to do in the offseason?
No, they got three. I mean, they can play Johnson, but I mean, he's just like a bull in a china shop. He get the ball, put his head down. He just trying.
He's 6'5".
Calvin Johnson,
6'6".
Oh, okay, well, whatever. I mean, they got people on the bench. They just ain't playing. They got Plumlee and Olynyk and all them folks. They just ain't. No, they're gonna go get a real dude. They're gonna go get a real dude. But I'm gonna tell you right now, Kevin, Slim, and don't sleep on Vassell. I think he was just 4 for 4 last night, and everybody else talking. You know, Josh Hart's my man, but Josh Hart ain't going. What was he? 5 for 6 or 6 for 7? He ain't doing that. All right.
Yeah, they got a good night from him, and then Jordan Clarkson threw in a couple of prayers too. The two of them actually hit some big shots.
And Anunoby ain't get the damn ball. Shawty, little light-skinned dread shot the ball like 42 times to get 30-something points. Anunoby shot the joint like 10 times and got 28. You do the math.
Yeah, I know. Last question for you. Do you agree with me that Wembanyama's dirty or not?
Oh, Kevin, you can say it. He's dirtier than a dog. I mean, they do stuff to him, but no, his stuff is like, pushing somebody from behind. Nah, Slim, if you're going to push me in front of my face, Or when he bowls Slim in the head, I mean, Slim, he lucky he ain't get rocked. I mean, and then he do that little smirk, and then he gets up on these interviews, Kevin, and they ask him a question. He'll give you a one-word answer, and then he'll pause for like a minute, and then he'll finish the sentence. Nah, Slim, make it fluid. Don't you? I gotta go.
I love it. Big Tony's picking apart the press conferences. He's actually
my pressure, Kevin.
My
pressure going up. I got to go, man.
All right,
take it easy.
I actually love watching Wemby's press conferences because Big Tony just nailed it. Like, he'll listen to the question. The mic's down in front of him. He's not holding it. He thinks for about 10 seconds. He picks up the mic. He doesn't speak initially, but then when he eventually does speak, it's actually something really good typically. He's highly intelligent, you can tell. Super thoughtful. He's got a sense of humor. There's a lot to like about him personally. I just am getting a bit irritated with some of the on-court antics. That's all. Lap, finish it up for us. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's up, Lap?
He definitely got to toughen up a little bit, man, and he does do some dirty stuff, but he stays at that three-point line. He needs to be in the paint. I agree.
He was in the paint last night. There was a lot more with him at the rim last night, which is why he was 11 for 18. He shot three threes or 4 threes last night. I thought I looked at it at the end of the game. Four threes, 2 for 4.
Well, he's still developing, Kevin. I mean, he's got raw talent. You can see that. He's still developing.
Yeah.
But don't sleep on Sarr, man. I'm telling you.
I'm not sleeping on Sarr, but he's not Wemby.
No, I will tell you why. No, I know. I'm going to tell you why, because, we didn't get that Wemby draft. So I think we got a sleeper in Sarr, because I got a guy that used to train the Morris twins, and he said, man, Sarr can do a lot of stuff Wemby can do, man. And he's like, watch out for his development. He's going to surprise you. So
but Mark and Largo said Sarr's better than Wemby. If there were a trade between the Wizards and the Spurs, the Wizards would have to give up Alex Sarr and 19 first-round picks to get Wemby. And that wouldn't even do it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But I think we have our version of Wemby, man, just a low tier of that. But I think Sarr.
I hope you're right.
Man. Watch. That's what I'll tell you. Trust me.
All right. Thank you, Lap. I've enjoyed the conversation. I love talking about games that were just played. So much more than talking about a guy that posted an Instagram video that everybody's talking about. We'll get back to him next because Ian Rappaport had something to say about the Brandon Ayuk video. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the Team980.com.
I mean, I think we'd all like to avoid some similar IG messaging from Brandon Ayuk. Would rather this situation be settled rather than have this drag on through the summer. But that's the way I see this going on. First of all, here's what the San Francisco 49ers would like. They have his rights. He's not doing any guaranteed money because he forfeited that by not showing up to his rehab. So they would like to trade him probably to the Commanders with his old friend Jaden Daniels and an organization that obviously knows him well, considering Adam Peters was in San Francisco and all of that. What the Commanders would like to do is sign him without having to trade him. So, Tom, we're in a situation where nobody wants to move at all. They're all staring at each other. There's really no deadline to make a move at all. So until and unless everyone gets tired of Brandon Ayuk sending Instagram messages, this is going to be a storyline that takes us through the summer.
Ian Rappaport yesterday on the NFL Network, what Washington would like to do is sign Brandon Ayuk without trading for him. You know, the one thing about this whole Brandon Ayuk saga that would really anger me is if somehow Washington ended up sending a late, round 2027 pick for Ayuk. Even if when he got here, they tore up his current deal and structured a better deal, I don't want any compensation paid for him, and I don't want any deal other than a 1-year prove-it deal. Now, of course, I'm basing that off what I think I know, which isn't a lot, because the only thing that we do know, as I've said multiple times now for a few months, the only thing that we truly know to be borderline factual is that this dude had between $27 million and $40 million, depending on which report you believe, voided from his deal because he violated his contract. And according to all of the reporting, all he had to do to make sure that there was no way that that money could be voided from the deal was to post once or twice a month at the 49er facility to let the team's physicians monitor his outside the building rehab. And he didn't do it. And then on top of that, that's unprecedented to begin with. Never has a player in the history of the league had that much guaranteed money voided from his contract by a team. And then the second part of it is, and this is the tell about, who's at fault here, is that as of now, Brandon Ayuk, Brandon Ayuk's agent, Brandon Ayuk's legal representation, nor the NFLPA, the union, no one has gone after that money. This is terrible in terms of a precedent for the NFL Players Association, the union. And even they couldn't come up with a reason to say, 49ers, you can't do that. You can't void that. Even they said, open, shut case, nothing we can do, you're an idiot. Now, there's a chance maybe they're planning on going after it, and I don't think there's a statute of limitations on them going after it. But, in all of the conversation from that, video in which he, goes through that one spot where he's saying, they're talking about BA did this, BA did that, BA did this, allegedly, he said. Allegedly? Well, then why aren't you going after your money? Go get it back. Prove that they did it incorrectly, that you didn't violate your contract in a dumb way. But so far, that hasn't happened. That's the only thing we know at this point. The rant yesterday, do you have that right now, Max, just to refresh everybody, the video Instagram that he put out over the weekend? Can you just play that for everybody if they haven't heard it?
Absolutely. Here, give me 1 second. Let me pull it up because I am recording Dan Quinn still. He just wrapped
Dan Quinn speaking. We'll have some of that sound next hour.
So I'm grabbing Ayuk's Instagram story now. It's taking forever because our computers are slow and I'm filibustering. But here is Brandon Ayuk on his Instagram story.
We dealing with, like them kids when they don't get picked for the basketball game at the court. but they the ones that brought the ball. So they like, all right, you don't want to pick me? I'm taking my ball. I'm going home. Ass boys, little ass boys. Or like when your kid, he got this one toy, but he don't really know how to use it correctly. So somebody else about to pick it up and play with it. And they like, oh yeah, this shit litty. Wait, hold on, that's my toy. Ass boy, little ass boy. Man, stop running from the belt. The belt coming.
Yeah, so that's what he said. That was, a part of it. He also referred to them as little female dogs. There were basically two big takeaways from this message, which, by the way, it's the first time we've heard from him in a while, other than just, cryptic messages or videos that were sent. And the two big takeaways, or the two themes from his video message, were, number one, the 49ers are petty and their children, hence the analogies to, a ball being taken away from the court because they didn't get picked. And there was, another kid with a toy analogy. And the second theme from that message was, get ready, because I'm bringing the belt. Meaning, eventually I'm going to end up in Washington. And on October 19th, Monday Night Football, I'm coming back and I'm bringing the belt. Belt to backside, as the kids say. They say it a little bit differently. And get ready for that. Time will tell as to whether this is sound strategy in trying to get the 49ers to release him. I don't know why all of a sudden he has started to become more active on social media and then produce this video. I did have somebody tell me that he was hoping that post June 1st that they would just release him. Keep in mind, they could have released him before June 1st with a June 1st or a post June 1st designation if they had wanted to do that. But will it work? I think the one thing that could work, that could end this for him and give him his freedom sooner rather than later. The later is, and the latest would be, based on what we know, August 31st, because on September 1st, if he is still on the roster, and I don't know if the current exemption that he has, left roster or left squad list, the reserve left squad list, I don't know what that means to the September 1st payment contractually that they would owe him. But let's just say that they could take it to August 31st. The only way to shorten up that process is for him to, instead of video message out what children the 49ers are and what a tough guy he is for him to be a tough guy and show up. He didn't show up for any of the voluntary OTAs. They canceled the minicamp. I'll say what I said yesterday, and then Ben said it even more forcefully when he was on yesterday. The chances that they canceled that minicamp because they didn't want him to report are slim and none. Like that, you're not going to put the betterment of the football team having a minicamp for 89 other players. You're not going to cancel it for this wingnut. And by the way, he's already proven that he's not willing to show up for anything for, coming up on a year now, or coming up on 7 months now. So if training camp is the next mandatory have to be there, he needs to show up on that July 25th or July 26th, whatever the date is. We should probably look that up. Look that up, Max, when the 49ers training camp, when the veteran report date is for training camp, because that's the next have to be there if you're on their roster. He's on the roster even with the exemption. He's under contract, I should say. But he's on this, reserve left squad list, which means basically he's, AWOL. He's MIA. And they don't have to do anything. They don't have to pay him. And I guess they can fill the roster spot with another body until they take him off that list. But the next have to show up for date is the beginning of training camp. And if he really wants to play football, rather than just be the, video messenger, to be the Instagram poster, to be a story that has nothing to do with football, then he'll show up for camp. And then we'll find out whether or not the 49ers are willing to put up with all of the activity that would be centered on the status of Brandon Ayuk. But if he's not there, if he doesn't have the stones to show up for training camp, then they don't have to do anything. And I don't know for how long, but there's the payment that Mike Giannetti from Spot Track, when he was on with us, he said there's a $20-something million payment due on September 1st if he is still under contract and on the team. And at that point, if they cut him then without getting anything back from anybody, then Washington signs him to a prove-it deal. And then, can he get ready for the regular season opener at Philadelphia? Can he get ready for week 2 at Dallas? Can he get ready for week 3 against Seattle? I certainly think by week 6 he'd be ready to go. Jay Gruden told me not that long ago he didn't think that Brandon Ayuk, coming from a Kyle Shanahan system into a system that may be somewhat similar, he didn't think that he needed a full training camp to get ready. But, did you have the start date or the report date for veterans?
I'm still trying to find, because the earliest one I can find is July 23rd. I believe that's the first one, but they're selling tickets for July 23rd. So I'm not sure if that's the first one that's open to the public or if it's just the first one in general.
Okay. So it's going to be, we're a month and a half probably away from the next critical date, unless somehow they decide, enough is enough. I'm going to stick with the way I feel right now based on what I know, and I don't know enough, nor do you people. I mean, it doesn't seem like anybody in San Francisco knows the root cause of all of this. And maybe we'll learn one day that the root cause of this was justifiable from his standpoint. I don't think anything's justifiable when you're 27 years old to throw away the amount of money that he threw away for maybe principal. I don't know what it would be he was standing on. But there's going to be a point in time that he's going to probably wish he didn't do that. Now, he's made generational money. They've paid him a lot of money with that contract that they signed him to in 24. But if I were a 49ers fan, I would not want to do Washington or anybody else any favors by giving that player to that team so that he could have a full training camp. Why? This isn't a guy that's beloved. This isn't a guy that if you take that tact, it's going to be viewed as disrespectful. We've already seen multiple people in 49er land. We had Dante Whitner on this show. We've had others. We've played the TJ Houshmandzadeh stuff. He was his personal, coach there for a while. None of them think that the 49ers should turn him loose. Most of them think the behavior is not only unprecedented, it's ridiculous. Anyway, that's what Rappaport said, coming back full circle to what we played coming into this segment. Rappaport basically said what Washington would like to do is sign him without trading for him. I would be upset if they traded anything for him. I want this to be, hey, our doctors looked at you, physically you're ready to go. Our psychologist looked at you, you're mentally stable enough. We're paying you a 1-year deal, $9 million, $10 million base salary. You get paid as you go on base salary. And here are a bunch of incentives that if you perform, you could end up making $20 million this year. Take it or leave it, but we're not entering into a deal that puts us at risk if you end up being completely nuts. We can terminate this thing at any time without any residual, cost moving forward. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the Team980.com. Scott Van Pelt was there last night. He did his Sports Center after the This Is NBA show. It was on very late. I did stay up and watch much of it. I thought Dylan Harper was really, really good with you last night. But let's just start with this, because I texted you early on, even before the game. What was it like to be there? Because it just looked like an unbelievably electric scene and atmosphere.
It truly was, Kevin. I mean, I've done this a long time, and you get a little bit numb to it, immune to it, used to it, whatever. Last night in New York City in the Garden was 11 out of 10, just in terms of, like, in every direction there was somebody, and it was, I mean, Jeter and Eli are sitting side by side. Oh, there's Chalamet. Oh, there's Jay-Z. What do you know? Oh, there's Jon Stewart. Oh, there's Chris Rock. Oh, there's Mayor Bloomberg. Oh, there's Al Sharpton. I mean, it was like it ran the gamut of New York City, heavyweights. And, I turn over and I'm right next to Dave Chappelle, and it's like, oh, hello, Dave. At one point, Jeremy Lin, who's been doing some work with us, and is really good.
He is really good.
He was in the one in the back too. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm pulling into a place, and I think I need my ID. Maybe.
Do what you need to do. We're good.
No. So Spike Lee asked me to find Jeremy Lin because he had some jerseys that he wanted Jeremy to sign. And so I'm looking around, and I go back to our area, and I said to our group, I said, this is a sentence I've never imagined I'd say out loud, but I need to find Jeremy Lin because Spike's looking for him. And it was just that kind of thing where you were just in the deep end of the pool, and the buzz and the build, and New York City, and the Garden, Kevin, it just got to a place where it was fever pitch. But the Spurs, I thought, from the jump came out and shot the ball so well, and it was so important that they do that. And then it's an avalanche in the second quarter where it was 42-24 New York, and that buried a lot of people this year. And so for the Spurs to stare into that atmosphere and just not blink and come out in the third the way they did, and then finally play well enough in the end to win, just the whole night was really remarkable from a vibe scene standpoint. And then, from the basketball, and this goes back to the theme you and I have talked about off the air, and I'm sure you've talked about a ton on the air, the physicality and what they're letting go is nuts.
Crazy. I mean, I've said it all throughout the postseason, and the last time we talked, I asked you if you felt like it was different. And I love this time of year with the physicality, but I thought Friday night in particular, it just crossed the line. I mean, what they were allowing was crazy. But let me just real quickly ask you, because, Scott is very humble when it comes to some of this conversation, but I've been with him many times when people of note have come up and wanted to meet him in places, and you've told me so many stories about different things, and I won't even go into them. But was there one of those, last night? Like, wasn't it Usher who basically came up to you on a plane once and walked up to you and said, "Hey, man, I'm a big fan," or something like that? Did you have one of those last night?
I mean, it just, people that look at you and give you the nod, like the what's up nod, right? I mean, it's kind of all those people that you're mentioning. Like, I'm on the floor, and the commissioner comes up, and we're on the floor, and the folks are very sort of, we need to get you out of here. They're trying to warm up, and I'm standing with Commissioner Silver, who comes over to me because he wants to talk about how much he loves the post game and this and that we do, and the guys that are doing security are not psyched that we're out there, but it's the commissioner. And I finally said, Adam, like, Josh's heart's trying to get some shots up here. Let's step to the side. And then you step to the side, and then it's, there's Larry David. I wanted to say hi to Larry because he's a Maryland guy. I didn't get a chance to go say hi to him, but then I wouldn't want to bother somebody. But I don't know. It's wild. I've done this a long time. So even if there's just that recognition that people say hello or they greet you or whatever, it's always kind of wild that they would have any idea who you were. Spencer Haywood came over to me and was like, man, I'm such a big fan. I was like, how does Spencer Haywood know me? Larry Johnson, I told him, we started talking about George Ackles on that UNLV team. And when I said George Ackles, he stood up out of his chair and gave me this big hug. He's like, I'm so glad you remember him. And I mean, you do such a great job. And I just looked at Stanford Steve and I was like, Larry Johnson watches our show, just goofy stuff like that.
By the way, Spencer Haywood's a big part of that documentary about the ABA. Have you watched that? Have we talked about that or not? Soul Power, it's called. It's so good.
Yes, and he was mentioning to me how many guys are on the Spencer Haywood deal, and he said they don't know it. I said, but I do. I mean, I know how important he is to the game, but man, you were up to your eyeballs in as I say, the deep end of New York City last night. But you know what? The Spurs team, as young as they are, for them not to ever lose poise and get the game they had to have, man, really, really impressive.
So the other thing about the crowd that I wanted to ask you, and I don't think I asked you this last night, but even Ryan and Corbin were asking me to ask you about the decibel level. Like you and I, and I'm not going to make this a Maryland thing, but we have been in environments, and you have beyond Xfinity and Cole Fieldhouse, but Xfinity Center for games that we've both been to, it's been about as loud as I can imagine an arena being. Was that much different than what we've experienced before?
Different because the decibel level was. It was more buzz than it was like the buzz of the night was more palpable, right? Like the real roars. It got crazy in the second. Second quarter got crazy. I'd say OKC last year was every bit as loud as any place I've ever been.
You did tell me Indiana, that. I remember that. Yeah.
Indiana was every bit as loud as any place I've ever been. I mean, I think you recognize, man, these finals games, it's a whole different level of atmosphere that you're stepping into. And then again, the New York City angle, obviously, it just is a magnifier. But I mean, look, you and I know that our place, and go back to Cole, like on nights when it gets great, it's great. But I mean, there's more people in some of these arenas than I'm used to being in.
What does Wemby look like in person?
It's hard to describe, man. Like we were in the tunnel early because we got there early just to make sure we could get in the joint. And I'm standing there with Ben Stiller, who I have gotten to know because and he's doing all this. He's doing a film, and he's waiting for Wembanyama, and he comes walking up this tunnel, and it's jarring. I mean, I'm 6'6", I'm a big person. He is so tall and just so unusually proportioned that you just can't make sense of it. And then I happen to be standing directly by the side of the floor where Wembanyama came out. It wasn't intentional. I just kind of got lucky because I wanted to just see, like, all right, like in his gear, right, in his Spurs uniform, it's just so. I mean, not strange, just different, unique. I mean, he's 7 whatever he is, and
what is he?
Enormous.
He's listed at 7'4.5", but he towers over Cat, who's 7 feet.
He's got to be 7'6", man.
Right.
He's got to be that. And then what I wanted to watch was, like the pregame is always instructive, right? You learn what do guys do. And like, I watch his handle and the ball's like a grape in his hand. So he's able to sort of caress the whole ball when he dribbles it, but it's so high because he's so tall,
right?
That he's working this outside stuff. And I'm looking at him going, look, I get that you can do that, but then you should probably probe the paint some tonight. And then that was obviously a huge focus of what they were trying to do, was make sure he was a force in the paint. And I think he had the most paint buckets that he's had thus far this series.
Yeah, that I'm totally with you on that. I think he can be Kevin Durant down the road a little bit more, but he's much better right now in the paint. So here were my big 2 takeaways, and we took an hour's worth of calls on the NBA Finals, with the Brandon Ayuk story swirling here in town. And because, I'd much rather talk about last night than Brandon Ayuk. But number one was that the Knicks reverted to what they did last year and what they did early in the Atlanta series. The ball stuck with Brunson, and the ISO ball killed them offensively. So that was big takeaway number one. I'll tell you what takeaway number two was in a moment. But you had Legler on, and I missed that. I'm upset that I missed that part of the show. But what did you hear from the people that were analyzing the game about sort of the ball sticking with Brunson too much?
Iman Shumpert, who I know you really like a lot, I've gotten to know him, and he wasn't on my show last night, but we talked at halftime, and he was bothered by exactly what you described. He's like, he cannot have that many dribbles and the ball just staying in his hands. They're so much better when they're moving it and it doesn't stay put. And Legs didn't mention that as much. You know, we with Tim talked about Mike Brown's point that he made regarding the officiating, which I felt was intentional. He gave the Spurs the credit, but you're just trying to get a better whistle down the road. As you know, I understand why he does that. But I mean, more than anything, Legs' comments were simply, you know, how great Wembanyama was on both ends, how Jeremy Lin pointed out that having Wemby roam the baseline, you know, side to side was really impactful. He had that incredible block on Shamet when he went baseline. Right. And, you know, you try to use the rim as a defender, it just doesn't matter because Wembanyama's length won't let it be a defender. But I mean, I don't know. The topics of conversation were Wemby and Stephon Castle's greatness, like his, you know, he hit kind of a not a miracle, but a late in the shot clock deep heave that was probably as big a bucket as anything other than the Fox shot late. But it was more than anything the resolve of the Spurs and their ability to finally make the plays that were the difference in the last 2 minutes. I mean, this could be a 2-0 Spurs lead if they're better in the last 2 minutes at home. They weren't. But the sticking of the ball with Brunson was honestly more of a topic with Michael Wilbon and Stephen A. Smith. And I was traveling up to Connecticut this morning, so I didn't see what Stephen A. had to say on First Take, but I know that the idea from the New York lens was about that, you know, what are we, 30 for 81 for Brunson so far from the floor, hasn't shot it well. And San Antonio's really making him work his ass off to get where he is. I'm sorry I'm rambling, but I'm just trying to get to the point. The one point that I think Jeremy made, Lynn, he's like, I'd like to see the Knicks do something to get the ball out of Brunson's hands so he doesn't have to spend so much energy bringing it up.
Yes.
You know?
That seems so obvious to me. On Friday night, the laboring required for him against Castle in particular, just to get the ball across half court, whoever Wembanyama's guarding should bring the ball up court. Then there's should initiate the offense, even if it's Cat.
Yeah, I agree with that because and particularly, I want to say it was game 2. It felt like San Antonio jumped Brunson as soon as he got across half court. It's almost like they were trapping at using the midcourt as a defender.
Sure.
And they're being allowed, not just the Spurs, but the Knicks as well. But they're so physical on the perimeter. It just is. I can't get over it. So I don't know. We do this. We over dissect and then we react and whatever else to what will happen in game 4. But San Antonio's young. They walked into the belly of the beast, man, and they got one they had to have. So, the whole dynamic changes because now Wednesday's not a closeout spot. Now all the pressure reverts to New York because if you lose it, now you got to win 2 or 3 in San Antonio. So, it makes Wednesday really interesting.
So the second big sort of takeaway or theme for me after last night was twofold, kind of. One, Wemby's dirty. I've watched every single game of every San Antonio playoff game. He's a dirty player. And number 2 is he's becoming a bit irritating because of that. And I'm wondering what your response is to that. I know we've talked a little bit about his chippiness. I love, by the way, his competitiveness. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. And I like the physical nature of the postseason, even though I think it's crossed the line at times in terms of what they're allowing. But I think he's a dirty player. What do you say?
I love the edge. I love that he seems like a guy that is, MFing people under his breath. Like, I love that. You need that. To win, you need a ferocious competitor. The narrative that surrounded Oklahoma City was that people thought that they flopped and people couldn't stand it and they don't play ethical basketball. So everyone's rooting for the Spurs and they're the darlings. And then New York, they beat them. And now in 3 games, there's been enough sort of the same things people used against Shea, right? To create these clips. You can put clips together with Wembanyama. You're like, what are you doing, man? Like you're grabbing Brunson and whatever. I'm hesitant to say dirty because I feel like that's like a brand that sticks with you. I'd say he's at the line / very dangerously close to going over it, to doing things that are flagrant and ought to be called as such. When he does something that's a flagrant, then call it that. You know, I mean, he threw an elbow early against Minnesota. We saw that, and he
got tossed.
Dirty. I don't know. He's doing things that are going to give him that label by the end of this series if it isn't already. And I hear other people saying what you're saying. You can be the darlings and then quickly what's the saying? You die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. Like it's changing in real time for them.
It is. And by the way, multiple things can be true at the same time. I mean, his talent, his skill level at his size. I mean, I think already we're watching one of the great defensive players we've ever watched, and it'll only get better. I do think there's some awkwardness to his offensive game, but he was outstanding last night because most of the shots were taken near the paint. But if that's Draymond Green last night against Brunson, he might get tossed in Game 4. He might have gotten suspended.
I mean, you're certainly, your reputation precedes you, and he's gonna earn one in a hurry. If he continues to put his gigantic size 20s up against this line and cross it. I agree that you can't continue to push the envelope to that degree because nobody wants to be ejecting someone of his impact in a championship game. No one. But you can't exploit that and continue to make plays that lead to this kind of conversation.
I loved what Harper said to you last night about Castle. Just about, does he ever smile? Just give me verbatim what was said.
I asked him basically what you said. I said, what makes Stephon Castle smile? And before I could even get it out, Harper goes, nothing. He said, I try all the time and I can't make him even smile. And I said, I love watching these teams because between OG Anunoby and Castle, these are 2 incredibly impactful and talented young players, and neither one of them ever changes expression. Castle he was excellent last night, and he is very, very tough and really, really rugged guy, man. He's strong as hell. And Harper said, no, I can't. I try to make him smile, and I can't. How impressive is Harper? He's 20, and he sits there with me, and he's as good media-wise as anyone for either team in this series.
Castle's got really good media-wise. He was great on with Barkley and Ernie and the guys before your show last night.
Yeah, he did inside, and I mean, it's the behind-the-scenes stuff's kind of interesting how this works. And I mean, inside is this the first time they've ever been at the finals? And last year we were the ones that were on in that spot, so we kind of had whoever we wanted. Well, now obviously inside's going to get first pick. They're on first, and they chose Castle. Or they asked for Castle, I should say, and it's like just kind of a list. And like I had like Wembanyama, Castle, and I asked for Harper just because we had done a couple with him, and he's been great. He didn't shoot it great, but I thought, I don't care. The guy's from here. He's 20, and he's writing an amazing story.
You said to him, "You got some shot volume up tonight." And that was funny. And he admitted, I put a lot up. He shot 18 times in 32 minutes and was 1 for 8 from behind the arc.
Yeah, and he's looking, because we were looking at the box score. I was like, yeah, you got 18 up tonight. And he was like, he's like, I was 1 for 8 from 3. He goes, I'll never be 1 for 8 from 3 again. And I said, well, they look good. He goes, I thought everyone was good off my fingers.
They did look good.
Yeah, I agree. And you and I always feel the same way with like any Maryland guy through the years. Like, if you're a good shooter, I don't care if it goes in or not, let it rip. You know what I mean? Like, shoot. But he was fantastic in the interview. But like, it's just kind of, you put a list together, and then the media folks are great, and they kind of help out with the ordering of who goes where or whatever. But I mean, we're sitting there in the Garden. It's 1 a.m. and you're sitting on the floor of the Garden with a set, talking to people at the NBA Finals. The whole thing is pretty surreal.
So we're talking to Scott Van Pelt, of course, and he was there last night doing SportsCenter after the show. And you'll be there tomorrow night as well?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So, I mean, do you find it like as hard as I am finding it right now to figure out what happens next? Like, I don't have a good feel for anything. Like you said, all three of these games could have gone. San Antonio could be up 3-0, down 3-0.
Yep.
It could be 2-1 either way. What is your hunch on what happens next?
I truly don't know, because no one's done anything that leads me to believe that there's a significant advantage one way or another that leads itself to some sort of a blowout or easy outcome to decipher. I am waiting for Brunson to have a game where he shoots it well. I thought maybe the second quarter was the Avalanche. It's 42-24, but when I saw him on at halftime, he talked me out of it. He said no. And he was explaining like the weight of the half court and how they had the floor was poorly balanced and they missed shots they won't miss. And I'm like, damn, he's really, really a basketball savant. Such a treat to talk to him.
Wait, who was that? Who said it at halftime? I'm sorry.
Iman Shumpert.
Oh, Shumpert. Yeah, no, he is so good. So good.
Yeah, no, I agree. And
year.
he's even more fun off the air because we can be more colorful and descriptive in the language that people use when they're not on television. He's just great. Anyway, he was convinced at halftime that what happened was going to happen. But I don't know how you have any real read on anything. The Spurs have shown that the moment's not too much. The Knicks, obviously, they won, 13 in a row prior to last night. So I think the Brunson piece that you point out, like let's not have it stick. Let's not have him use so much energy bringing the ball up. How do we find some kind of it's not going to be easy, but get him in a rhythm where he gets more buckets without having to shoot 27 times to get them. I keep thinking the Knicks are going to have a game where they shoot it well, and maybe it's more comfortable. But I mean, the Spurs, they won two in OKC, 1 and 7. They just won a game 3 they had to have. If they won on Wednesday night and made it even, would it be surprising? No, not at all. Anyone that's got a read, I'd love to know what leads you to that conclusion. You know what I'm saying?
There's one player for the Knicks that I actually think really makes a difference when he's in there off the bench in terms of their pace and their spacing and the ball moving, and that's Alvarado. I don't know if he and Brunson I don't know if the two of them could play together. I think it would be interesting if they could.
Kevin.
It'd be a
really
defensive
backcourt
problem. Yeah. It'd be a very a big defensive problem for sure.
Yeah, because the length of the guards for the Spurs is noticeable. They're big people. My list for New York was like, I just want to talk to OG Anunoby if they win, because I think remember watching him at Indiana? He was good. I thought he was a pro just because you could look at him and go, okay, physically, he's a big man and okay, that's a pro. But like, what kind of pro? I don't know. Not this. I had no idea he'd become this gifted a 3-point shooter and this impactful. And he's like Castle to me. He doesn't change expression ever. And I just appreciate pros. I love pros that do their job and there's no BS. And he's that. Never once do you see a high or a low out of him. He just keeps impacting the game. He's phenomenal. But just in the same way that the Spurs conversation, had they made the shot for Wembanyama at the end of game 2, the whole conversation after it's different. Anunoby would have gotten all sorts of love last night, and it doesn't really get mentioned much because they didn't win. But he was great.
The playoffs are the ultimate reveal about these teams and players. The regular season just isn't, and he's a big reveal about what you said. He is a phenomenal two-way player. And, one of the things I kind of forget about Anunoby, he was on a championship team, with Siakam and with Kawhi, and he's been around that.
Yep. And what's cool is that Jeremy Lin, who was on that Toronto team, when I was talking about Anunoby and how serious he is, unlike what what Dylan Harper told me about Castle, that he can't make him smile. He's like, no, OG's like, he's goofy and fun in a great way. And I said, no, he's not. He goes, no, he really is. And I just can't fathom that that's the case. But I thought it was just interesting insight from Jeremy, which was neat to see him go back to the Garden. I mean, it was a meteoric moment. It was a Haley's Comet moment, what Lynn did, but he's royalty forever in New York City. Like they adore him, and him being back in the Garden. He said it was the first time he'd been back since he played there. And it was cool. Like, he didn't win a ring, but he's responsible for something that everybody in New York remembers with such affinity. So just another little layer to the whole scene of yesterday.
All right, two other quick things to ask you about that have nothing to do with last night. And that is, number one, what did you think of this Brendan Sorsby ruling that's going to allow him to play at Texas Tech? And even if the NCAA appeals, it'll, probably won't be heard until he's finished with next season. I thought it was so shocking.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be shocked by anything. I mean, and I'm not, because all anyone does, and I tweeted something about this yesterday, like if you want a 7th year of eligibility, you just keep appealing until some judge says yes, and then the NCAA just folds. They don't continue to pursue it. So they appealed and they got an injunction. I mean, I take my cues from the people in the sport, and the people in the sport, administrators, coaches, people, power brokers that matter in the game, are all just aghast that this would happen, because that's the third rail, and everyone knows it.
Right.
I will say this. I look at, and I said this on television, Kevin, and you and I are in the same boat here. I said, look, I gambled illegally in college. I had a guy, and I'd call him on the phone, and I am sensitive to the fact that young people today don't need a guy. They are the guy, and they have a phone, which is the guy, and they're in charge. And it's an incredibly, slippery slope. But everyone in the sport knows that the third rail is you cannot bet on games that involve your team. You can't do that. And he did. And the fact that wasn't something that was a disqualifying action is something that no one in football, or I should say in NCAA athletics, can believe.
Yeah, it's a dangerous precedent if players now think, hey, we can break the gambling rules and find a judge that will be sympathetic to our mental,
all that
state.
Happens. That's all that happens, is you just keep appealing until you find a judge. And this, it's different, but the same flavor. Like Charles Bediako, the guy from Alabama that got eligible this year, that came back. He'd been a G League guy, and he came back. And then Oates at Alabama said, well, we're just following what the law says we're supposed to do. And it's like, and I'm paraphrasing, but it basically was like, well, we're just following the law here. And it's like, well, just because you find a judge in Tuscaloosa that will say he can play, should you? I mean, should you follow that? Or should you say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't do this here? Well, Texas Tech's pot committed here, literally. Like, they got a very talented player, and he's going to be their quarterback. So, I can't see them being the ones that go, you know what, maybe we shouldn't do this.
Well, I was going to say that the only way this stops, if players are going to, and even schools are going to use the courts to delay this thing and draw this thing out, is the schools themselves are going to have to say, no, we can't do this, because it'll happen with everything else, and our players are going to be betting $90,000 a season on their own team, and eventually the other teams as well. It's like you said, it is the third rail. The other thing I wanted to ask you real quickly is, I don't know how much we've talked about this, I forget, but do you have an opinion on Brandon Ayuk? And did you see the video message that he put out over the weekend on Instagram?
I did. I don't know, man. He seems like he really hates San Francisco. I don't know. Is that a guy you want to be in business with?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much we don't know. It's like the 49ers people don't know a lot. This was the first time we've heard from him, and he's essentially saying the 49ers are children. He's the adult. And, oh, by the way, he's bringing the belt on Monday night, October 19th, to Santa Clara as part of Washington's wide receiver corps. I think if there's no risk going in and your physical doctors have cleared him and your psychologists have cleared him as mentally stable, if there's no risk, meaning he's going to sign a 1-year prove-it deal, if you think there's a chance you're going to get that player from 2023, he was very good and ascending at that point.
Of course, but listen to yourself right now.
I know.
You're saying if you've been in business that has nothing to do with this. Like, imagine you brought a candidate in and you're like, yeah, well, if we can get their whomever to say that they're mentally stable, this person's really a good earner. This is really a good earner we can bring in.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
that's not a disqualifying statement right off the top that we have to. We're dealing with this as a starting point. I get that he caught a lot of passes, and you're right. He was really good. And yes, Washington could use somebody. I'm just listening to a guy, and he's talking, and I'm like, this doesn't feel like it's just not a great look. Now, I don't know what San Francisco did, but like, I don't know, man. Like, he's not the first wide receiver that was mercurial. I mean, you know.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I said to somebody yesterday who was on, and I'm forgetting because it was all the way yesterday. But, like, if we were to disqualify for bad judgment or limited intellectually or narcissistic behavior or mentally not completely right, you wouldn't be able to construct a full NFL roster. Like, you just...
Sure, everyone's got... We've all got our things, you know? We've all got our things. I understand. And maybe...
The key is you can't be at risk for it. You've got to be able to move on from it without any pain if it turns out he's not motivated to play or if he's a disruption.
Well, it sure seems like he'd be motivated for a Monday night game, which, by the way, we'd be there. Monday Night Countdown before. We'll see you from Santa Clara. I mean, he's walking around sending out pictures in Washington hats and talking about the game on the 19th. So I don't know, dude. It seemed like a lot to me, but I don't know.
You got a good setup, by the way. You got Cincinnati in Landover on Thanksgiving week, right? So that's a good Monday night game. What about the other holiday week? What about Christmas week? Where are you? I forget.
I don't recall. All I know is we have a hellacious West Coast schedule, which is a lot, but we do get a back-to-back week, one Baltimore and one Washington. So those are wins. Don't have to get on planes for that. And also on Thanksgiving week, it's nice to be home already. So there's that. But I have no. Yeah. I know we go to Green Bay in January. That should be delightful.
You go to Kansas City Monday night, December 21st. You're at Arrowhead for the Patriots.
There you go. Ho, ho, ho.
All right. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you later.
It's always a pleasure. We'll see you Wednesday from the Garden.
Scott Van Pelt, everybody. Scott Van Pelt Sports Center every night on ESPN and on NBA Finals nights. It follows the Barkley, Ernie, Kenny Smith, Shaq, Draymond Green was on that show last night. He's pretty good, actually. Draymond's got really good analysis of the games, but I'd prefer him to not be on the set and just the regulars be there. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the Team980.com.
Mitchell comes off the screens, but so does Clark. Up and in!
Caitlin Clark last night here in D.C. made a three-pointer with 1.2 seconds left to give the Indiana Fever a 78-76 lead. They won the game. It was Caitlin Clark's first game winner, a game-winning shot as a WNBA player. She's been under fire, and the reason I asked Max to play that is I just read before the show the story about Caitlin Clark's been coming under fire. I've not been paying much attention to it, admittedly, but she hasn't been playing well. She got into an argument with her coach that was publicized, and on video, she snubbed a teammate on a high five. She's been very whiny and complaining towards officiating. So, there's been a lot of a bit of a turn on Caitlin Clark. Look, since the moment she came into the league, the pettiness, the jealous, nature of a lot of players and coaches around the league, I think it's honestly the first few years, and that first year in particular of her WNBA career, is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen a professional sport do from a business standpoint. They literally were trying to chop off the hand that was feeding them over and over again. Now, I haven't followed her recent behavior. In a story on CBS Sports, they talked about the fact that she's been very, very, demonstrative when it comes to calls that are going against her. Christine Brennan was at the game last night, asked her about some of the recent criticism, and she said, quote, "I don't think I would be as good of a player if I was very stoic and straight-faced all the time. The fire and the passion, that's what makes me. And I'm always learning and going back and reflecting on how to be better and how to be a better leader." Someone would have to help me with this because I'm not following the day-to-day of the WNBA. But I don't know where she is, among the players in the league. Right now, remember, she was injured a lot last year, missed much of the season last year with injuries. This year, through 10 games, she's averaging 18.7 points per game. She averaged 19.2 points per game as a rookie. 4.5 rebounds. That's a rebound less than what she averaged as a rookie. 8 assists, which is pretty close to what she averaged as a rookie. She's shooting 38.3% from the field in total. She shot 41.7% as a rookie. I'm excluding last year because she only played in 13 games last year before she got hurt. And her three-point shooting percentage is at 33.3%. That's down a percentage point from where she was as a rookie. I don't know where she is. Is she an all-star player? Is she not an all-star player? One thing that, never changes with a shooter is once you become a shooter and you learn how to become a shooter and you become a good shooter, that never leaves you. That's something she's always going to be able to do, even if she ended up becoming a role spot-up three-point shooter. I'm not suggesting that's what she is in year 3. I just don't know. I have no idea where she ranks. Her team, the Indiana Fever, they are currently 6-5, and that is the 6th best record out of 11, 14, 15 WNBA teams. The top 8 make the playoffs. We're very early in the season. How many games do WNBA teams play? I don't know the answer to that. Sorry. Is it 30? I think it's 30. Might be 40. What was their record last year? Their record last year was 24-20. So they play 44 regular season games. And the game last night, unlike some of the early Caitlin Clark visits to Washington, the game last night was played at Care First Arena, the 4,500 seat arena for the Mystics, not at Capital One Arena, where we've seen, I think, some of the previous Caitlin Clark games be played. And I think her first game or two, it was a sellout at that arena at Cap One. Last night, Care First, the attendance was 4,200. I don't know. Is that a sellout? It's got to be close to a sellout there, I'm assuming. All right. What else did I have? Dan Quinn spoke today as OTAs. The final session of OTAs is getting underway out in Ashburn. Next week, Monday through Wednesday, will be the mandatory mini camp. Just one no-show based on some of the reporting, like Ben is out there today. Laramie Tunsil is out. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, once again, working on a side field. Terry McLaurin, Antonio Williams as well, just running on a side field. But this was Dan Quinn when asked about the Brandon Ayuk situation.
Yeah, like not for my, understanding or have a comment about that. You had to take your shot. I understand. Yeah, no, I did. Yeah. Very fair. I'm sure.
Yeah, so he didn't say anything about it. I thought Ben made a really good point on the show yesterday when he said, if Washington weren't interested, like if they had already made up their mind that Brandon Ayuk wasn't going to be a part of their 2026 plan, they could easily leak that. Typically it gets leaked to the Schefters and the Rappaports of the world, and it could get reported. But it hasn't so far. Now, it doesn't mean that they're definitely going to sign him when he becomes available.
But
It's very possible that they haven't made up their mind yet. What'd you say, Max?
Rapp did say in the clip that we played
he
coming
said
in, they would
Washington
like
would like to sign him without a trade.
Without a trade. So
I also thought that in listening to that the way in which it was sort of in context was him just essentially saying, look, if they wanted to sign him, they don't want to trade for him. They want to sign him. They want him to become a free agent. I know that people took that as sort of a report that Washington would like to sign him once he gets cut. And maybe that's what it did mean. But anyway, there's we could be literally still nearly 3 months away from, him becoming available. And then at that point, Washington can do real due diligence. I would assume that even though they may know a lot about what's happened, they still have to bring him in. They still have to physically clear him. He's certainly got to pass a physical. They've got to feel really good about the knee. They've got to feel really good about the shape that he is in. They've got to feel really good about his mental stability. Look, football, we laugh sometimes at players posting videos of themselves working out and showing what great shape they're in. That actually would benefit Brandon Ayuk right now. Instead of what he put together over the weekend, a better video would be him working out, showing how serious he is about playing football, because there is one piece of information that we have that could be an indication that he's not super into focusing on football right now. And that is, he could have accelerated the process of the 49ers doing something about him had he shown up for OTAs, and he didn't. And I'm telling you, this first day of training camp, when they report, veterans have to report, he better be there. That would be a sign that he wants to play football. He wants to force the 49ers' hand. And by the way, this is from afar and without a lot of information. But the advice that I would give would be show up ready to play football for them. Show up ready to be taken off that reserved left squad list, in shape, ready to play football for them. Make them say, yeah, no, we're going to cut you. We don't want you here. All right. really good calls today. Appreciate it. Thanks to Scott for jumping on with us after a late night for him last night at the Garden. Back tomorrow. Chris is next.